Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Email me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing a spectacular and rare stainless steel and white gold Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch Moonphase Broad Arrow, drawing some of the design language from the late 1990s Speedmaster 57 revival model. This timepiece has a classical Moonwatch case and a lot of elements that are drawn directly from the famed NASA-flown chronograph, but it's definitely a luxury product with a stainless steel case and a white gold bezel, a silver dial, a moon phase, and of course a date. This watch rocks. 42 millimeters in diameter, like a Moonwatch would be. It's 14.2 millimeters thick, which is actually a little bit thinner than a standard Moonwatch. It's 48 millimeters lug-to-lug with a 53 millimeter end-link to end-link distance across the wrist and a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. This model was made from 2000 to 2003, and it was a flagship piece priced accordingly, so very few of these were made. If you're looking for a Speedmaster that's not expressly a limited edition, but you want something that's uncommon and not derivative, this is definitely a way to do that. There's been a Speedmaster Moonwatch Moonphase model in the catalog since the mid-80s, and it's always been an upscale version of the standard Moonwatch, but it wears like the standard Moonwatch. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see this is a watch that fits well. Because of the end links of the bracelet, I'd recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger, but you could wear it on a 14 centimeter circumference wrist if you put it on a strap. Here's your cuff shot. You can see it's a pretty thick watch with a cantilevered bezel. It's not going to fit underneath a sleeve, but you should be okay with a jacket. Over the top, you can see it does fill out my 16 centimeter wrist. Now, the watch features a classic Moonwatch bracelet. I've always felt these Moonwatch bracelets sort of split the difference between a dress bracelet and a sports bracelet. Yes, it's a three-link design, like a sports bracelet often will be, but you have these little polished intermediates, these ovoid profiles, polished flanks, and a relatively short cross-section, which creates the look of formality. You can see back in the early 2000s, Omega would use pins and sleeves for removable links, so you're going to need a block and punch to size this yourself, but they are very secure once in place. There are two different divots inside the clasp, so you can change the anchoring point of the bracelet, put it in either of those two divots, a small amount of inward or outward adjustment, and of course this is just like the Seamaster clasps from the time, albeit without the dive extension, milled out from the solid, very secure twin trigger release, a solid single swing arm system, very confidence-inspiring. Rolling around the case, you know it well, two pusher adjusters and profile for the coaxial moon phase and radial date, and then we have that beveled professional style case that we've known on Speedmasters since 1964, sometimes known as the lyre lug profile. You have these expanding outboard bevels and then the satin finished inward bevels. You also have a little bit of a symmetry and a shear guard protection for the crown as well as the chronograph pushers. Moving on to the dial, you can see outboard we have a white gold tachymeter, and this is not expected. If you look carefully, you can see that it is a slightly warmer, darker tone than the silvery white of the steel case, and it does add a little bit of heft that you wouldn't expect in a purely steel watch. So it's a nice upscale arrangement that's far more cush than a insert in anodized aluminum, for example. This just seems richer and more opulent. You can also see it's in very good shape, as all the lacquer inside the characters is still entirely intact. You have that domed sapphire to look like the Hesalite on the standard watch, but here it is sapphire for scratch resistance. A silver sunburst dial, unlike a standard Moonwatch. Here we have applique, diamond-polished, rhodium-plated steel indices, so it's not a printed dial. And instead of a matte black base, we have this lovely silver sunburst. It has a cruciform symmetry, so you can split it either way, vertically or horizontally, and find symmetry. Then in a nod to the original 1957 CK2915 Speedmaster, I don't quite have the nails I used to have, one moment. You could see that the watch includes alpha-style hands on the chronograph registers. Now, the watch also includes a broad arrow hour hand, so this is a look back. This was one of the early Omega tributes to that 1957 model. Later on, there would be true vintage re-editions, but this was just a hint of antiquity. We have sunken registers. They're handsome. They add another focal plane to the dial. The seconds, hours, and minutes have a concentric grain stamped into them, and then you can see the same outboard of the moon phase, which is crescent style, and there is a radial date just above that. Underneath the case back, which still identifies this as a Moonwatch, and if you note carefully, it is a Speedmaster Professional in spite of its luxe appointments and its complication. Inside, the movement is still based on the LaMagna 1873 that flies with NASA, but this is not the 1861 version of the 1873. This is the 1866 version of the 1873. So LaMagna based, but with a complication module. It's the same basic movement that flies. Manual wind, 48-hour power reserve, 21.6 beat rate, 18 joules, and it has a cam lateral clutch chronograph operation that is super shock tolerant, one of the reasons Omega uses it, and all of that is protected down to 50 meters, so it's a water-resistant watch, but it's not a watch I would take swimming. This is a truly rare, special, uncommonly seen, and sparsely built edition, a fantastic way to get into Omega without feeling like you own a generic watch. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Back with the Moonwatch moon phase and that broad arrow hour hand.